universities?
I think potentially, particularly in the public institutions, there could become that. When you talk about funding, I think we all tend to focus, not unreasonably, on what's happening with the Trump administration and what's happening in Washington, D.C. But there's been all kinds of actions at the state levels that have really changed the way that the college classrooms work. Places like Florida, where they've, are auditing, professors for their political beliefs, and they are watching the amount of money that they get from China, and they're trying to legislate all of that. And so I do think there's some question about what is it going to mean for the funding for colleges, and what is it going to mean? I mean, faculty are, you can debate how mobile they really are, but just as is a red state presidency going to be appealing anymore? Will people coming and looking for jobs, would they rather work here in California where I am, or would they rather work in Florida where it's maybe a little bit more difficult to be a professor?
Yeah, it's interesting. Before I turn it back over to Michael, this summer I've had some dinners with presidents and provosts, and one in Providence and then one in Austin, Texas. And it was really interesting, especially the one in Austin. Like, there's a lot of money in Texas going to higher ed still. And it's kind of like, we'll take the money, and I guess we have to take the interference that we don't like. Where meanwhile, up in the Northeast, it's like, we don't have any money, but maybe we don't get the interference, right? So it's kind of like, what would you rather have? And I think most of the folks in Texas said, we'll deal with the interference because the money's kind of nice. I don't know. We'll be kind of curious to see where this all goes. Michael?
It's going to be interesting to play it out. Let me just ask a couple more questions where we'll go around all of you before we go to some less weighty, a little bit more fun, lighthearted questions at the very end in our lightning round. But again, this is a question for all of you. With this push by the Trump administration, it seems like there's an attempt, obviously, to change the culture of higher ed in some pretty big, they would prefer lasting ways. And of course, higher ed, is built to change very slowly, if at all. Where do you think things land in 5-10 years from now? Like, if you looked at your crystal ball, what changes might stick? Where might some of these things get reversed in future administrations? How malleable, I guess, is what we're seeing, and where will it be more fixed? Doug, why don't you go first, and then Hilary and Karin? Love to hear everyone on this.